But she's.
Oh my God, this is the dumbest country on the planet. Oh my God, we are living in the dumbest dystopia. Mickey Waltz is out. We're going to talk about all of that. We'll get into that. We got Liza Brianna Wu. Mickey Waltz pushed out of national security advisor role. He is getting exited. He's getting loomered. We'll talk about that too.
Breaking news.
You're wrong. He got promoted? No, he didn't.
Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Dana Bash in Washington, and we are following breaking news. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is expected to leave his post in the Trump administration as National Security Advisor. It is the first top staff shakeup of President Trump's second term. Of course, Waltz has been in a precarious position with the president after he accidentally added a reporter to a group chat about upcoming military strikes. We're going to get right to this. Here with me now is CNN's Caitlin Collins, alongside CNN's Jeff Zeleny, Dasha Burns of Politico, and Mario Parker of Bloomberg. Caitlin, what are you hearing from your sources?
I mean, this is a surprise to no one at this table who's been covering the White House. Mike Waltz has not had good standing with the White House ever since Signalgate happened, when he inadvertently added a reporter to that group chat, and then later sensitive military information was shared on this group chat. He's really never had super strong standing inside the White House. I mean, I remember this morning someone predicted to me back during the transition, before Trump even took office, that Mike Waltz would likely be the first one to go. And now he is marking the first major staff departure of President Trump's second term. And really, his job has kind of been in limbo all week. We had heard earlier this week that something was going on with him. Officials insisted to us yesterday that his job was safe. But there was a moment that CNN saw on Tuesday when the president was going to Michigan on his 100 days in office. And Mike Waltz, we noticed, traveled on Marine One with him. But 10 minutes later, you see at Joint Base Andrews, that's his figure. He does not get on Air Force One. It's only about a 10-minute flight, so it's extremely odd to take the helicopter flight and then not actually go on the trip. I was told he was not supposed to go on the trip, and so people raised questions about what this moment meant. So we've been asking White House officials about it, and essentially it just got to a point
the girlies
where
are fighting.
He
the
didn't have
girlies
a lot
are
of
fighting.
confidence, not of the president.
Is drums. No, in like the last hour, he actually got promoted. Wait, what? Wait, why are you guys saying it's a promotion? I don't think being the ambassador to the United Nations is a promotion. No, Trump is presenting it as a promotion. It's not a promotion. No, because it objectively is. No, it's not. No, this is not a, no, chatters. This is not a promotion. I mean, you get a nice Manhattan penthouse, yes, but it's not a promotion in terms of his career. The amount of power that you have as the National Security Advisor is far greater than being the UN ambassador. What are you talking about? You go from, this is what I was trying to explain. You go from being the guy who is making State Department decisions in the room to being the guy who has to defend those State Department decisions in front of a hostile audience of Europoors who are gay and libtard. Okay? What are you talking about? No. I don't think it's a promotion. I think it's a demotion. He's selling it as a promotion. Like, who do you think? Do you think Elise Stefanik? You think Elise Stefanik was going to have more power than Mike Waltz if she actually became the UN ambassador? It's almost a shame you're not right wing when you speak their language so well. Yeah. Also, yeah. Do you guys believe Trump? Is that what's going on? Like, you think when Trump says, this is a great promotion for Mike Waltz, who I love very much, you think that he is saying the truth? Or do you think he's lying? Why would you believe him? Everything he says is a lie, including this.
Not of his senior staff. And he was told, I was told earlier this week, that his time as the National Security Advisor had come to an end and it was time for him to leave. And now we are told that he will be departing, and so will his top deputy.
So the world got to know him through his very, very unfortunate error of adding Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic to Signalgate. But just by way of background, this is an important sort of detail, which is that, first of all, Mike Waltz is a very serious person. He is a former Green Beret. He's a 4-time Bronze Star winner. That all happened, that service, military service, is obviously well before he ran for Congress. As part of his sort of approach to the world, it was much more hawkish historically than anybody around President Trump in the current form. And so My understanding, and I'm curious what you all are hearing, is that never mind Signalgate, it was that very fundamental mistrust of him and skepticism of him and his perspective about the world that was also problematic from the start.
It absolutely was. And I think Signalgate was the reason for his departure, but not really what led up to it. And one of those pictures we just showed, so interesting, of Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff. Despite their Florida roots, many Floridians inside the West Wing, including those two, I'm told that she has not been at odds with him necessarily, but not impressed by his work. He is a hawk. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's been a lot of flexibility.
I mean, yeah. You know who's not a hawk? Marco Rubio. Is that what we're doing? Yeah. Mike Waltz is the exact same type of hawk that Marco Rubio is. Okay. He demonstrates the same wing of the Republican Party. But it doesn't really matter because Trump is a hawk too. I'll just say it like this. There are instances. Marco Rubio is a doormat. You said is a placemat. He is a placemat. Exactly. Marco Rubio is a placemat. I assume that Mike Waltz was a little bit more contentious. Part of the reason why he got clapped here is because his sense of loyalty to the admin was sometimes overshadowed by his interest of nuking Iran, I suspect. maybe he was too excited at the prospect of nuking Iran over and over and over again. And Marco Rubio, despite also wanting to nuke Iran, because these guys always want to nuke Iran, just remember that, was more of a doormat. So he was like, yes, Mr. President, if you don't want to nuke Iran today, maybe I can suggest it tomorrow. This is also the SecDef message to Iran. He got promoted to the UN. It's not a promotion. It's a demotion. It is not a promotion. Is this the meta? Are we gonna be talking about this today? I don't think it's a promotion. Chatters, I do not believe this is actually a promotion. It is a demotion. When you're the national security advisor, you're in the room. You have consulting power. You are making decisions. When you're the UN ambassador, you're not making any of those decisions. You are now a person who has to defend said decisions in front of people who look at you like the bloodthirsty monster that you are. You went from a guy who makes decisions to a guy who has to basically do propaganda. A guy who has to be the mouthpiece for said decisions. Not Jerome Powell. You're talking about Colin Powell. Not Jerome Powell. Why do people keep saying Jerome Powell? You're talking about Colin Powell. It is funny, though. Jerome Powell is one of my favorite curiosities is like white guys in politics that have black names. And yes, Jerome Powell is one of those dudes like Sherrod Brown. Let's keep going.
Among some advisors, Marco Rubio also comes to mind. I mean, long before he joined this administration, he too would have been in the hawkish side of the Republican Party, but this is the Trump era. So Walz definitely did not necessarily fit this, but he was qualified in, many other ways. And a lot of Republicans who I talked to at the transition were actually happy he was in the West Wing because they thought that he would sort of bring stability and things. But back to that point that Caitlin showed, that video is so fascinating. Mm-hmm. What it doesn't show, the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, is on the plane.
Jerome Powell
and
is
he flew to Michigan
No.
with the president. And I'm
what
told the
are
president,
you saying?
Throughout the day embraced.
You think the chair of the Federal Reserve of the United States, Jerome Powell, this guy is light-skinned? Oh, you're kidding. Okay, thank God. Oh, my God. Yeah, lighter skin than like the average Italian person, maybe. Yeah, he's a POC, as in person of capital. Oh, man. All right, let's keep going.
The Defense Secretary yesterday at the cabinet meeting, it was so clear. So when you sort of step back at this, why Walz, not Hegseth? Because, as Caitlin said, he invited Jeffrey Goldberg into the chat, and that was sort of seen as the original sin.
And can I just say that that was captured by our photographers who were excellent, Jay McMichael and Christine Lean, who were there and spotted this and noticed that he didn't get on. Obviously, they are just as good as reporters as we are. Mike Waltz has been fighting for his job this week, though, ever since then. He was in the cabinet meeting yesterday. He did Fox and Friends this morning.
Though.
I mean, he has certainly been doing the things that you would do to try to stay inside the administration.
But by the way, why Waltz and not Hegseth? Also, to the point that you were making, Dana, he was not seen as one of us in terms of the MAGA movement. So often on these issues, especially of foreign policy, it was Waltz and Rubio on one side and Vance, Witkoff, and the others on the other side. And we've been reporting for over a month now, ever since Signalgate, that Waltz was on the chopping block, that it was a ticking time bomb. The reason that he wasn't fired immediately after Signalgate was simply because Trump and the White House did not want to give the media a scalp. But this has been a long time coming. And again, Signalgate.
It's funny because, like, Pete, Leak Hegseth has done additional signal gates, but they're acting like Mike Waltz, who was responsible for the initial signal gate, is the bad guy here. Okay, Pete did something worse than that. He was literally privately, Leak Hegseth was privately DMing classified information to his wife, dude. Yeah, I know. Mike Waltz foolishly added I don't want to even call him a journalist, really, but, you know, added a journalist to the group chat. But Leak Hegseth's been doing it too. You could at least say Mike Waltz made a mistake. Pete was just like, YOLO, I don't give a shit. I'm a wife guy.
Gate was more a byproduct rather than a reason for his ouster.
And do you remember the Laura Loomer list?
Yes.
Sure.
When she came in, you reported on this, and she had a long...
Oh, also Reuters cop Mickey. Photo shows Mike Waltz literally checking Signal during the cabinet meeting. Bro, these guys love Signal. Why do they love Signal so much? It's Pete Keg's breath. The something gate is purely based on the Watergate hotel scandal, though. It's funny that it's not just become a suffix for any sort of drama. Yeah, it has. But I don't mind it. Signal is safer than normal chat. I know, but like, you're not supposed to. I don't think you're supposed to be having these conversations, especially like classified convos on a private app, encrypted messaging application where the messages can be deleted. You know, what the hell?
List of people, not sure where she got it, but a long list of people on the national security front
illegal.
Who were
not that it matters,
not considered loyalists, but it was obviously much more than that. Mike Waltz was on that list.
Right, absolutely. And to the point of the other panelists, the fact that he was known as a more traditional Republican, hawkish in nature, which is in direct contrast to the Make America Great Again foreign doctrine. But I want to take another step back as well, back to that cabinet meeting yesterday. One of the things that was striking was how many of the cabinet officials subtly gave an endorsement to Hegseth, right? Namely Lee Zeldin yesterday as well, who kind of gave an impassioned defense, talking about the greatest defense in national security head of his recent memory. What that signaled, I think, was that the rest of the West Wing were favoring Hegseth over Waltz. If the president had to make this decision sometime this week, they were casting their votes on which one would be to go.
Can we also talk, I mean, Dana, obviously longtime Capitol Hill reporter, how Speaker Mike Johnson is viewing this? I mean, Trump took several House members to put them in his cabinet, national security advisor is a cabinet level position. None of them are now in it because Matt Gaetz obviously did not go on to be Attorney General. Elise Stefanik had her nomination then pulled, and then Mike Waltz, of course, now is the first major departure. Scaramucci is kind of mocking, you know, just how short his tenure was, saying I think that he had 9 Scaramuccis. But it speaks to the level of this is something the White House wanted to do for a while, but they all wanted to wait until that 100-day period had hit because they didn't want anything to happen too soon.
I'm so glad you brought up.
Sorry, speaking of Laura Loomer, just before we came on, I literally got a text from Laura Loomer saying loomered.
I mean,
A verb.
I knew it.
But she's verbing herself?
She's verbing herself,
Okay.
yes.
Oh my God, this is the dumbest country on the planet. Oh my God. We are living in the dumbest dystopia. We are living in the dumbest country on the planet. Oh my God. I don't know if it's Laura Loomer actually taking credit for something that the Trump administration is doing, or if the Trump admin actually if Trump actually took her advice, and I feel like the Trump admin might have taken her advice. Oh my God. Oh, Laura Loomer does Laura Loomer actually have decision-making power within the admin? What a crazy situation. What a crazy time to be alive. Oh my gosh, she has a beautiful spirit. She is a firebrand and a beautiful spirit, a free spirit. Laura Loomer. She has a free spirit. She told me to fire Mike Waltz. I said, I can't fire him, Laura. Laura said, do it. I said, I have to do it. Bring Laura out. Bring her out. Bring her to me. Bring Laura. The loom haunts you. It does.
Let's go back to the political implications of this, because, I mean, there's so many, but just on Capitol Hill. Because remember, it was Mike Waltz who had won his seat by like 1 million points. I mean, rough, give or take a few.
In deep red Florida.
He was very safe. And then the special...
Are they piping? I don't know. I feel like... I mean, at first I was joking about Trump having sexual intercourse with Laura Loomer, even though I did think that it was weird that such a low-level freak would be flying on Air Force One. Or not on Air Force One. I think it was during the debate. So I guess it was Trump's private jet as a part of his like debate prep team. But then he said, Laura Loomer, she's a free spirit. And I thought, maybe he is having sex with her. Because why else would he say that? I don't know. Please say, everything is Loomer. Laura, she's a free spirit. Everything is Loomer. Everything's computer. And the things that are not computer are Loomer. Everything's Loomer.
A lot closer than anybody had hoped. Now, to be fair to Mike Waltz, it was, well, I think maybe he could argue it's a good thing because he shows how popular he is. But also Randy Fine, who then actually did win. A lot of Republicans were especially at the White House, were very frustrated about the way that he ran the campaign. But there was some... I don't know.
I wonder if Melania actually now cares. You think Melania would care if Donald Trump was having sex with other women? Are you insane? She probably loves it because then he's not spending time. She's not spending time with him. It's awesome. I mean, come on.
If it was buyer's remorse, not necessarily only about Mike Waltz, but about what you were saying, Caitlin.
Melania's got another man
That they took him out of the
anyway,
house,
that
and then they
Italian
had to spend so
stallion.
much money to replace him and keep that seat red.
Yeah, I mean, incredibly frustrating, obviously, for Speaker Mike Johnson, for people like Elise Stefanik, who would like to be in New York serving at the United Nations, but is not. And so you just see all the implications that this has. And the president had been warned against picking too many House members, but he liked these people. They were his allies. Mike Waltz was one of his biggest defenders during the campaign. He would go on TV and defend the president when very few others would during certain news cycles. And when the president was under fire for comments that he had made about the military, Mike Waltz went out and defended that. And obviously he is a former Green Beret. And so certainly he was a powerful voice for his on the campaign trail and came into the administration, but just never really had that strong of standing. Not a huge surprise. Trump had 1 million national security advisors, to speak to your numbers a second ago, his first time in office. This is a position that is more easily changed because it's not Senate confirmed.
I'm glad you brought that up. In 2017, at the beginning of President Trump's first term, he had a national security advisor named Mike Flynn, and he lasted 22 days. And of course now, Mike Waltz, national security advisor, almost former, so far he has been there 102 days. And that's just that position.
Right.
So I think we should also...
This was a major issue in the first Trump administration, so I like the return to form. I'll admit. There was a lot. Let's not talk about Hassan. Sean the Black. Thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. Thank you for the raid. This was a major issue. The revolving door, the fact that it was like a leaky faucet in the admin. There was so much goddamn turnover. And now we're getting back to the old hits, okay? I love that. I love that personally. Who doesn't like it? It's nostalgia baiting. Also, thank you, Anarcho Oatmeal, for the 50 gifties. Funniest Laura Loomer moment. Trump is nominating former Rep Billy Long for IRS commissioner. You must watch this video of him in 2018 using his auctioneer voice to talk over Laura Loomer as she heckled a House hearing featuring @Jag.
Order. We'll have order in the hearing room, or you'll be asked to leave. Ma'am, if you'll please take a seat, or we'll have to have you. Then you'll need to relieve.
Donald Trump, help us. Please help us, Mr. President, before it is too late. Because Jack Dorsey is trying to influence the election, to sway the election.
What's she saying? I can't understand her. What?
Steal the election. That is why he's censoring and shadow banning.
How about a Dan? 12 and a half, 15, 7 and a half, $20, 2 and a half, 5, 7 and a half, 30. Hit $30 down here, 2 and a half, 5, 35, 7 and a half, 40. Hit $40, 2 and a half, 5, 45, 7 and a half, 50. Hit $50 down here, 2 and a half.
Officer, will you escort this young lady out, please?
Hit 2 and a half and now 5, 65, 7 and a half, 70. Up 2 and a half now, 5, 75, 7 and a half, $80 to 5, 85, 90. Hit $100 and a 10 and a quarter, 1 and a quarter, 1 and a half, to divide, 2 and a quarter. Hit 2 and a half, to divide, 3, able to bomb 300. Hit 3 and a quarter. Hit 3.
Laura Loomer is the only person that has been banned from virtually every application possible for being a rapacious little freak and being that much of an Islamophobe. Okay? Laura Loomer's banned from like the weather app for being an Islamophobe somehow. Never forget. Never forget she also chained herself to the door of Twitter headquarters. Ironically enough, there was another person who wanted to do that. But with the Reddit headquarters, his name is Ethan Klein. He never ended up doing that. Don't know why, because I thought it would have been really funny if he did. I was very excited for that. That would have been awesome. Laura Loomer wants more. Breaking. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, along with his Chinese Deputy NSC Advisor Alex Wong, have resigned from the Trump admin today. Hopefully the rest of the people who were set to be fired but were given promotions at the NSC under Waltz also depart. Mike Waltz was moved to be the ambassador to the UN. I do think it's funny because they initially did not want a congressional seat to be in direct contest, and that's why they didn't want to put Elise Stefanik there. But, you know, there was a re-election that happened. Republicans won that seat, Mike Waltz's seat, obviously. And so now it is still a congressional Republican, congressional representative of the Republican Party that still became the UN ambassador. Yes, Laura Loomer follows me, and I'm so scared because I don't know why, and I don't know what kind of information she's getting out of this. I like to think that she follows me like a horror movie villain. You know what I mean? Remember,
and this is kind of the point that you were making, I think, Dasha, is that
she's been following
this is
me for
another
years.
example of how at 102 days and Trump won, I don't know how many people we had already seen depart. I mean, it was totally different.
We sort of lost track because there were a lot. But look, I mean, to Caitlin's last point, that's also one of the reasons that national security advisors are easier to get rid of because there's no Senate confirmation. Mm-hmm. The president expended a lot of political capital getting Pete Hegseth confirmed by one vote. There may be some buyer's remorse among some senators, but we will see. I mean, they've been quiet about this, but the reality is it's easier to replace that person. But even separately of that, the president views Pete Hegseth as one of his own. He's part of the movement. He's not been Loomered. That's not possible because he sort of comes with that. But that's why it was easy to get rid of Mike Waltz.
Right. And now the people like Pete Hegseth and others who may have been in a little bit of hot water, I think are breathing a sigh.
Imagine she watches the streams. I think you would be surprised with how many Republican operatives watch this stream. And how many Dem operatives watched the stream too, as we found out when I went to the DNC. It was a shocking revelation for me.
I have relief for this very reason. If they just have these headlines of Mike Waltz right now, it's going to be a while before they let another head roll.
Just some breaking news on Mike Waltz and these reports that Mike Waltz is being removed. President Trump says Waltz will be the next ambassador to the UN, so confirming that Mike Waltz is being moved. Donald Trump also says that in the interim, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, will serve as national security advisor. I assume that is in addition to his role as Secretary of State, because he doesn't say that Marco Rubio is going to leave as Secretary of State. And there is a State Department briefing as we speak, and we will try to bring that to you. And word from the U.S. State Department.
Okay, this guy's dying. Is ambassador to UN like an exile position in the cabinet? I mean, it depends. If you have an interest in a higher office, right? If you have an ambition to run for higher office and you're like a representative, for example, like Elise Stefanik, then yes, the UN ambassador position is a level up, because you can say, oh, look at my foreign policy experience. I was a UN ambassador. But if you're already in the Trump cabinet, and you're already the national security advisor, then you are making pretty high-level decisions. You're making those high-level decisions, so it is absolutely a demotion. It's basically exile. That's why I hate to admit this, but Laura Loomer is right. Laura Loomer is correct when she says you got loomered. A man got loomered.